still your frequency of champions. So, of course, this is Africa's foremost sports hub, Brila Media. And, of course, in the interview room right here today, we have a special guest. It's a former U.S. international. And, of course, now he's pursuing his other passions as well. He was part of those who helped popularize soccer in the United States, as you would say, back in the 90s, talking about none other than Janusz Michallik. Uncle Jan, it's great to have you finally.
It's great to be on your show. I appreciate the invite. Yeah, crazy time with my work at ESPN and Champions League, but happy to be here.
Yes, without much ado, let's quickly get it in because games going on as well. I want to quickly start the international breaks just over. Mauricio Pochettino appointed as coach of the U.S. men's national team, following in the footsteps of Emma Hayes, who's also been appointed, head coach of the U.S. soccer women's national team. How has that appointment been welcomed? What was the thinking of the USSF, in making that appointment ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup?
Well, I just think that, just like you mentioned, Emma Hayes, there was a moment of, if not crisis with the women's national team. It certainly was a time before she came in where, part of it was the rest of the world has caught up and, maybe U.S. women were not as successful as they needed to be and wanted to be. And they knew in order to do that, if you want to be the best, you got to get the best. And U.S. women have been the best, right? And as you could see, Emma Hayes came in with very little preparation, won the Olympics. Now, it's of course not going to be as simple as this on the men's national team, but I think, once we saw that Greg Berhalter in his second go around perhaps was not getting the job done, and this very, very talented group of American players at the right age. I mean, this is the first time when in the last few games, the starting 11 was entirely made up of players that play in the top 5 leagues in Europe, right? And they underperform in Copa America, even though got to give Greg credit, former teammate and a friend, because I thought that the U.S. in Qatar was very good, played proactive, and I think many were surprised in terms of how they played, and in fact, if not dominated, controlled the games against much better opposition, which was fresh. We know that the second time wasn't the best, and now I think it was important to hire somebody that is well respected, and it does have a big game, right? Copa America obviously was a big test, a test that this team, together with Greg Berhalter, did not pass. And here we are, 2 years ahead of the World Cup that's going to be played in the United States, largely, right? Mexico and Canada as well, but most games here in the United States. Without qualifying, you have very few opportunities to see these players. And I just think that they needed this sort of experience, no-nonsense manager, which I believe Mauricio Pochettino is.
Let me quickly segue a bit and ask, because I know it was during the last window, Canada beat the USA, with Jesse March as the manager as well. And obviously we know the whole situation and the drama with Jesse March and the USSF as well. Despite the fact that Canada said they were broke and could not afford a top quality manager. Has that been something that has factored into the US making this appointment as well, to say, since Canada have gone for a Premier League manager who's done a very good job, although it got relegated eventually or it got fired eventually, we've got to get a Premier League manager of our own as well?
Yeah, no, I don't think Jesse played into it. Obviously, I mean, he wanted to be the U.S. coach, although recently he said after the game that at this point he would not change that, which I find absolutely crazy for Jesse Marsh to say that. I hope he doesn't mean it, because for him to say that he'd rather be a Canadian coach than an American coach is crazy. Obviously, he tried to become a coach here. The federation didn't want him. There is some, if not bad blood, obviously, he's mentioned that, with the people that are in charge right now, that was never going to work out, whatever the case is. But I don't think they were looking at the fact that Jesse, was signed with Canada. I think Jesse in time may very well be the coach here at some point. I don't think, to be quite honest, he does have the experience just yet. Not to say that he wouldn't be successful, but I just think that now, regardless of what Pochettino does, I think you needed to cut out the narrative to get maybe another coach that's a little bit less experienced, where people would always talk, no, no, that's not going to do it, without that said coach even taken apart. So I think that Pochettino just cuts that narrative out, at least for the time being. And I think his background, with the fact that obviously he's been in Europe, he not only knows European football, being Argentinian, South American football, and all of that. I think when you go into a World Cup like that, he's got a pretty big experience in terms of future opponents, right? I mean, I don't think you can question that.
Hmm. Let me quickly segue into this, and this is a good one because you talked about the World Cup. 2 years to the World Cup already. We know it's just going to be friendlies where it's going to be tested on as well, but the World Cup qualifiers are going on in other regions of the world. And most importantly, I just want to ask this one by the way of what we've seen relative to what's been going on, the should I say different results. You go to Africa, Nigeria. We are currently fourth in our World Cup qualifying group that has Rwanda, South Africa, and Benin. Brazil are not doing well in the World Cup qualifying group. You go to Asia, Saudi Arabia have not started well. Korea Republic have struggled. Australia have struggled badly. Is this a sign that the gap is really closing and there are no Minos anymore in football?
I think so. I think the gap has been closing everywhere, right? I mean, you look at Europe and Eastern European. Well, I mean, any countries, but I was just in Poland. I'm going to Poland for the games against Portugal in the Nations League and Croatia. Croatia is rebuilding. Portugal, with all these stars, are doing well, but when it comes to the big tournaments, sometimes they struggle. I see Georgia, what they've done in European championships, and look at that. Look at them now in Nations League, beating Czech Republic and Albania, two teams that were in the final, in the European final. So I think it is. There's still some teams that big nations supposed to beat, but it just goes to show that you can't take anyone for granted. All these nations are playing with quality and immense pride, and they understand what it means to perhaps miss out or to be in the big tournaments as well. So for sure, I mean, every country is getting exposure to the top leagues of the world. You have a player or two or three that not only play for big clubs, but very often play a significant part, right? If they come even from smaller countries. So I think it is, and then that's a good thing. I mean, we did not want to watch the games where, the big teams win 4-5-6-0. We want to see competitive games. European championships have given us that. Copa America, as we've seen, it's a crazy continent in terms of qualifying, how difficult that is. I mean, yes, when you look at Brazil, you say, wow, what's going on? That goes a little bit deeper. But, that's been the case for a long time. Over there, Brazil and Argentina mostly come on top. But, those 10 countries there, it's the hardest, probably, if I had to, for sure, it's the hardest continent to qualify from, at least for the World Cup. So it's interesting. I welcome it. I love it when small nations give their fans a lot of pride. So it's all good.
Let's quickly talk about since we're talking players, let me quickly ask you this. The Ballon d'Or obviously is a topic of conversation. This conversation won't be complete if we don't talk about it. Vinicius Junior is one of the front runners. He's not played well in the Copa America. Brazil have not played well on the road to the World Cup. Obviously, he's done very well for Real Madrid, contributed in helping them. They begin the Champions League campaign as well. Kylian Mbappe had a mixed Euros, was not all it for him. Rodri was great for Spain, did well for Manchester City as well, but they didn't perhaps maybe win as much trophies as Real Madrid. A lot of players really have been mentioned in the conversations for the Ballon d'Or. And obviously, I would be remiss not to mention Nigeria's very own Ademola Lookman, who's also in the conversation as well. But I just want to ask, who do you think should be the front runner, the favorite to win the Ballon d'Or? as is at this moment.
I think, what hasn't happened for Vinny Jr. with Brazil, right? What hasn't happened for Kylian Mbappe for France opens the door for Rodri. People, even I am skeptical that he's going to get it, but I think he deserves it because you look at the whole body of work, right? And you can't say that, okay, Rodri didn't win as many trophies as Real Madrid. It's not about Real Madrid. It's not just about Europe. This is Ballon d'Or. This is worldwide. This is not just Europe and what Vinny or anybody else or Jude Bellingham, who's another one, right? I have nothing against Real Madrid. They have proven over and over and over again that they are the best club in the world, right? I mean, even recent history, not to talk about it. But this is Ballon d'Or. This is not about La Liga. This is not about European championships. So if you look at Rodri, who consistently does it, I know it's just about this year, and he won less than the year before, but the year before he won everything, still didn't get it, and he was up there, right? So I look at Rodri and how much he meant to Spain and the European Championship. We know how much he means to Manchester City, and I just think that this is the best opportunity right now to give it to Rodri. If they don't, I don't know what their excuse is,
Hmm.
especially now that I think Vinny Jr. and say Jude Bellingham and Kylian Mbappe has given everybody, I hate to say it, an excuse because he deserves it, Rory, but they've given it everybody else, all the voters, an excuse to say, you know what? Let's recognize somebody other than a big name or striker or right, or somebody that scores goals. Let's give it to Rodri. I think this is a great opportunity, and I promise you, privately, 90-some% would agree with it. Of
Hmm.
course, privately, I say that because you know how voting goes, right? Your friend, you're voting for your friend. Sometimes that's understandable. You don't want to go against your teammate or countryman, whatever that may be. But privately, given what I've said, and not just because I said it, I think it's a great opportunity to give it to Rodri. I truly believe it.
Let me also quickly ask this because Rodri is also championing something interesting. Is saying that players should consider going on strike, given the schedule. Because right now we're following the Champions League as well, and there's a lot of games, the new format. Are you used to it yet? Are you warming up to the new format of the Champions League yet as well?
Well, I mean, I'm going to give the Champions League a try, see how it is. I don't know. We just see two games, and I don't know, maybe just as good. It gives other teams an opportunity as well. I don't know. I need to see this rendition of the Champions League to say if it's good, better, and different, right? Look, there's one thing being a former player, and I understand what they mean because really there's so many games, right? But I think there's a better way of doing this, right? I mean, going out, I mean, I guess the players have to talk about it, but there's a small part of me that always feels, come on, guys, man, look at you. Greatest job in the world. I mean, all of them making so much money. And that's important. I mean, they may say, well, but they are in comparison to different generations and all of that, right? I remember always saying that, I'd rather play games than train sometimes, depending on who you coaches, right? We've always used to say that. So I fully understand what he means. I'm not making light of that. I think that this conversation needs to be had. But, like I said, I don't know if just going out there and talking about we're playing too much, we're playing too much, we're playing too much, we're playing too much, and then, going out there sometimes and fighting for additional 10 million a year from these players. I mean, this money's got to come from somewhere. I think they all know it, right? So I guess what I'm saying is that I understand. I do agree that there is too much football for these players. As much as you want to play more than you want to train, you still need time to recover and all of that. And as we can see, the games becoming global between the all these competition, the tours, but maybe you have to sacrifice some of these tours. I know the fans around the world want to see them. But let's face it, sometimes you come without the best players. Most of the time you come because they get vacation after big tournaments, right? And so you don't really truly see some of these stars. So maybe somewhere clubs don't want to do that because they want to make as much money as possible for them, for clubs, and for those players, so they can sign these big players. So you know, discussion needs to be had, but I just sometimes think part of me, that small part of me thinks, man, I play every day, with that money at stake when I was playing football. So
Every former international I've spoken to have said this same thing that you said, that if that was the amount I was getting when I was playing, oh come on guys, let's just play. Come on guys, let's play. I mean, that's what everyone says.
yeah, I think they have to be smart, and this is, I understand the players because there's a race now, instead of, everybody coming together and coming up with the solutions. You have this race, you have the Super League that fell apart, right? Now you have the Champions League, which pretty much looks like a Super League, right? Because UEFA smart enough to know that, okay, let's bring something so nobody else pops up with that. And then you have FIFA that all of a sudden wants to have pretty much a Super League, right? Which is the whole world, which means, I mean, yes, it's, all of that's going to be played in the United States, which is, of course, in the summer. It's far for everybody, most everybody. Who knows what the future is going to hold? Maybe you're going to be flying, Chelsea playing against Boca in Argentina, because that would have been cool, by the way, right? For us viewers. I mean, I'd almost rather see that than see, all the games played in one country. But just to see what the reaction of fans and players would be in a different environment. So I get it, but I think now to come back to it seriously, I would probably be happy to be playing those games and making a little bit of money, but I also understand that only as good if you're healthy and if you can play.
Mm,
That's when clubs value you. So of course I understand Rodri because if he picks up bad injury, then it doesn't really matter, right? How much money you make, and you're not going to be wanted by all these clubs because injury prone, whatever it may be, and that adds to it. All these competitions, but I think there's ways to that, and players aren't going to solve it. They should voice their opinion, which I don't mind,
mm.
but I'll do it in a second.
Finally, before I let you go, so we could get back to the games. Two Nigerian players in back-to-back years are now, firmly entrenched in the top 10, top 12 of the conversations of the Ballon d'Or. Victor Osimhen last year was eighth best player in the world. Then you come to this year, Ademola Lookman has had a fantastic year, a phenomenal year. And then you
Just
look
scored
at
the other day, beautiful goal, didn't he?
yes, beautiful. What a
Yeah,
finish. So you
yeah.
look at that and you look at the players and people are saying this is, the rising the resurrection of Nigerian football. But on the coaching side of things, we've not gotten things right. We don't know whether it's the technical director who will continue as an interim coach, at this point in time, as far as the country is concerned. What do you think from an outsider, from standing from where you are, looking in and the pedigree and how much you've also had to feel the country up close when they went the country back in 94 to where we are right now? What do you think is the problem with Nigerian football being able to take the next step? And do you think there is a probability you see them take the next step in 26 when you get to see them again at the World Cup?
Problem, I mean, I used to be very, very close to Nigerian, Ghanaian, and African football. In my days, you're too young probably, but some of your listeners in Nigeria probably remember ESPN Press Pass and
I
all the
do.
shows.
I do. I remember very well.
Look, I mean, Nigerian problem is Nigeria, and I mean, it's never changed, right? I mean, the level of quality and talent is for all of us to see. It has been. You've mentioned 94. I mean, there's been wonderful players. I mean, imagine if most country had this sort of talent turning up. You need just organization. Nigeria's got to figure out what they want. The FA, and again, I'm speaking here with some knowledge, but I don't want to, not on the inside. I don't want to offend anybody, but come on. I mean, it's always, should it be Nigerian coach? Yes. Nigerian coach comes in, he's out. No, we need a foreign coach. And then the next one is Nigeria, and it's over and over and over again. Find the right coach, right manager. But you know what? That's not going to be enough because I got a feeling that maybe even if Pep Guardiola comes in there, who knows if he's going to be able to do anything, right? You got to have an organization around him that's out there to help him. Everything should go towards that. whatever that's needed. If some egos need to be put back in the pocket in Nigeria with whomever, right? I'm not pointing fingers at anybody because, again, that's not what I want to do. A and B, I'm not privy enough to all the details in the conversation, but I mean, eventually you got to get it done for Nigeria to be where they are right now, right? I mean, you may be missing the World Cup. I
Mm,
mean, that's unthinkable. That's unthinkable. If you look at the players, you just mentioned two, but how many are there in the top five leagues? I mean, it's just unthinkable. The same story, the discipline of the players, the patriotism of the players, wanting to play for Nigeria at all costs, right? Always showing up to camps, always ready, with the right leader at the top of that, meaning the right manager that's being supported by the federation. And I'm not talking about, when I say support, obviously I understand that Nigeria is not going to have the resources of some of the biggest countries, right? That's not what it's all about. But I tell you this much, there are probably coaches out there that would really want that job. Who wouldn't want to be working with players like that, right? If you're a coach, you always think, if I have talent, I have a chance. Nigeria has the talent, but everything surrounding it's it's not a great environment to have success. And it seems to me that that is the simplest thing to fix,
mm,
to just say, let's show the world what Nigeria can do. And let's, in a cycle, whatever it may be, 4-year cycle or 8-year cycle, let's just sacrifice everything. Our egos, let's just do it for the nation, to have these images, in the net in 1994, to have these images, because, when you look at the, Nigeria, but the African continent, look what's happening with Ghana as well in general. Look where they once were, right? So, now you have the northern country, Morocco and doing a little bit better. But I look at that and I just think the easiest thing to fix is to be organized, to create an environment for a good coach, because the talent and everything else is there. Look how many countries don't have 1/10
mm.
of what Nigeria, Ghana, and some of the other nations have in terms of talent.
Hmm. Wow, indeed. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure doing this with you, Uncle Janusz Michallik, as a former US international as well. Thank you very much for spending your time with us right here on the show.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much. Say hi to everyone in Nigeria for me. Oh,
Definitely
I guess
will.
I guess I'm saying hi to everybody in Nigeria.
Of course you are. Of course you are. Hopefully we get to see you soon as well.
Sounds good. Thank you.